Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bible Belt Bros podcast. I'm back here with my friend Ben.
How's it going, everybody?
Who, I already forgot the name, Life Steps.
World Ministries.
World Ministries of Lifing Steps. Life Stepping.
Think of it, we follow in Jesus' footsteps.
Okay.
Yeah, Life Steps.
How long ago did they come up with this name?
2013.
Were you a part of it?
I was not.
Okay, so I can make fun of it.
I was doing drugs and drinking back then.
Well, all right. Cool.
Yep.
I was not.
Yeah, it was a mess. Yeah.
I was doing other things, but that was not one of them.
They came up with it on their own.
So needless to say, you weren't a part of it, so the fact that I think it's a funny name, you don't care because it's not personal against you.
Right.
So, cool. He's involved in Life Steps, Stepping Baby Steps ministry worldwide.
Yes.
And he's a computer nerd, IT guy, marketing guru, raising money, whatever else you do. Take out the trash.
All sorts of stuff.
All sorts of stuff.
Teach.
I've been in ministry before.
Right.
Let's talk about some misconceptions of what ministry is like based on what people think ministry is like. Because obviously you probably just play video games all day and go on a couple mission trips.
I think that's what people think I do.
But that's not what you do?
No. I work a lot of hours, a lot behind a computer screen, working on either documents or responding and sending emails, communicating with people, lots of time on the phone, talking with people, different meetings, coffee shops. And that's not even as far as the mission trips. That's just the organizing and planning.
Mm-hmm. About how many hours do you think you have to work on just the communication side of it?
Well, it varies. I work from about 40 to 70 hours a week.
Liar.
No, I mean, it just depends on what we're doing. But on average, about 45 to 50.
Gotcha. Communication is like, I think that's a misconception is like, even with pastors, is being in ministry, you have to communicate an awful lot to people.
All the time. And a lot of it is like, hey, I need this done now.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow.
Well, even at my job, like doing t-shirts for people, I spend about 2 to 3 hours consulting, communicating orders to people, even employees, like who's taking the order
right
and going to the next process with it. There's just a lot of communication. And I think that is, and when I'm having those communications, I can't work on the other projects.
Right.
That's one thing that like I struggle with is I'll be working on a project and then the phone rings and I answer it. I can't hang up that phone call and get right back into the mode of designing a t-shirt that I was in.
Right.
It takes me 10 minutes and then somebody else asks me a question. And it's a really annoying and really frustrating process trying to get work done.
Well, that's kind of how we have, we have teaching material that the guy who wrote the curriculum based out of the 4 Gospels chronologically, the material hasn't really been proofread in 35 years. And so there's lots of formatting issues, lots of some grammatical mistakes. Sometimes, Revelation 17:19, and when it's really supposed to be like 7:9, or it's Psalm.
Like anybody even looks up those verses.
Yeah, there's a couple instances where we have a psalm written down, and that psalm doesn't exist. So, some of those things where going through it, you figure out that there's an error there. But anyway, I'm going through and changing them. To be inside and making all those changes, it takes a different set of mind. It's kind of like screen printing. You have to get in the mindset and put the hours to get through it. And if I'm taken away from other things with, whether that be communicating or other projects, it's hard. It's almost impossible to just jump right back in.
Right. Yeah, I've had that before too. Like in the middle of a big screen printing project and people want to take me away from that to consult on it. I'm like, listen, there's no way I have less than 10 hours of print work to do. So,
right.
figure this out on yourself.
Right. And that's why a lot is, I'm not, I need structure, and I'm a go-getter, but I also need direction. And so sometimes I don't do very well with trying to balance figuring out direction on my own. So when I'm working on these big projects, I'm donor supported, so I have to go out and support raise or fundraising. We try to avoid that word, but raise support. Yeah. Fundraising. Yeah. That takes a lot of time, and projects take a lot of time. We're developing a wordless storybook of Jesus's life.
Yeah, you asked me to help with that, and I was like, golly, you know how many hours you're asking me to do?
Yes, so many hours that we had to put a pin in it for right now and move on to one other big project to get that red stamp of completion.
Yeah, that's probably the hard part with ministry for me when I was a youth pastor, was there's very few times where you had a stamp of completion.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, being a graphic designer, video editor, I can look back and be like, that shirt was awesome.
Right.
And that, I can look back. But there was, like, a constant fluid movement with youth ministry of life changing, and it's just different.
Right.
And I was like, that's a struggle, I think, for a lot of people and a lot of pastors, where they can't look back
Nope.
and see, like, the progress that they are making.
It's very hard to. I mean, we're in ministry not because we want to see results. I mean, we're not going to see the eternal side on this side of heaven.
You're just planting seeds. Somebody else will harvest.
That's right. And then, as a human who wants to see, especially an American who was raised to see results, which is so countercultural to the gospel, it's hard to get up every day knowing that I'm not going to see a result probably ever.
That's the worst part. Like, when you've worked, let's say you worked 8 to 10 hours one day, and then you look back and like, what the crap did I even do today? Like, I have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, that's a lot of my days.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm sitting around looking at Facebook. I try to avoid Facebook. I don't even have it on my phone for that reason.
You're in marketing and you don't have Facebook. Interesting.
On my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, we have business accounts.
Okay.
But I'm not on my personal stuff. I unfollowed everyone on my personal accounts. Like everyone. I don't even follow you.
Oh, well, fantastic. So how did you hear about this podcast?
A business account.
A business account show.
Facebook pages. But yeah, it's hard to not be able to see those results. Almost ever.
Yeah, that's got to be super tough.
Yeah.
But you love it. Do you love ministry?
I do. I really do. Before this, I was in manufacturing, working as a press operator, and that was sort of just a means to an end to pay off a lot of legal debt from past poor decision making.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah, bad life choices. And before that, which I still do, it would be photography and art. I was in the art scene since 2005. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember where we started down this road. So what were we saying?
I don't know. Loving ministry.
There? Oh, loving ministry. Yeah, so
loving ministry. Pause.
I do. I have mixed feelings about it sometimes, but I do really. I really enjoy it. When I was working before in manufacturing, which was kind of a means to an end to pay off legal debt, and pay off debt from poor decision making in my past. And then even before that, and still currently, being in the art world since 2005, doing photography, commercial, and portraits. That was all working for something else, someone else. My purpose was to fulfill someone else's desires or goals or anything. And even in the art world, I was always working towards my own career aspirations or trying to make my name known. I did a lot of just trying to get my name out there. Whereas now in ministry, it's just different. It's not like this constant pursuit of me trying to be better or more or try to make myself big, as well as I'm not making something that doesn't have a purpose. Like making heat exchangers, yeah, that's cool and it's fun, but it really doesn't have a huge purpose other than some big manufacturing plant. Like, it stops there. It doesn't have an eternal perspective. Whereas now I'm working in part of a larger body working towards the greater good, towards an eternal perspective.
Right.
It's just a different atmosphere. You know, even on hard days where, you know, I don't get a lot done, you know, I don't check a lot of things off the box, but I've put in 10 hours on something. Or, you know, I'm not communicating well, or things are tense, you know, it's a work environment. So, you know, not everything's rainbows and
lollipops.
Rainbows and lollipops. I always do rainbows and butterflies.
That's probably the real thing.
But at the end of the day, even tough days are still great. I mean, they're still so much better than a monotonous grind.
Right.
Which I was used to.
I would say that that's somewhat, like, that's definitely related to me with ministry work. I would say for me also just being entrepreneur-minded a little bit, starting a business where, yeah, you're still starting a business, but it's like it's a dream. And like, so the things that you're doing, the extra steps you're taking are kind of fulfilling this vision and dream and passion that you have. Because usually you don't start a business about something you don't like to do.
Right.
So it's nice to have, like...
I don't think those businesses last very long.
They probably don't. Because there's a lot of extra work that you're doing in ministry and in starting your own business that's off the clock. But you're doing it more because you love it than the fact that you're accomplishing a task for somebody else.
And my experience is the majority is off the clock.
Yeah.
There's a lot of non-paid hours.
Because ministry is sometimes a lot like customer service, where you're working during the times where people are off work.
Right.
And so for most ministries, ministry people and pastors and such, they're not taking the daytime off because they're going to kids' school event that night. They're just going to the school event later.
Yeah.
You know, and that's still work. There's still,
or, you know, there's a lot of evening classes, or, I mean, that's we reevaluated our scheduling at our ministry and kind of sat down and had a refocusing back in September of last year. And we put all of our hours on the board. You know, we're a very small ministry, you know, 3 people in the States with like 4 volunteers in the States and then a couple volunteers in Colombia. So we're very small.
Probably because people don't understand life steps. They're like, what is this thing? I don't even have a clue.
Hey,
this isn't even real.
Nigeria finds us and understands because we get calls on our voicemail from Nigeria all the time.
You're probably pretty good friends with the Prince of Nigeria.
Probably.
You're getting those, like, all you got to do is transfer money into this account and...
Yeah, fortunately, we haven't had too many of those, and then a lot of people from Africa different places in Africa find our Facebook. But anyway, we reevaluated and looked at our hours, and we had to look at, okay, during the week we put in 40 hours, like during normal business hours, but like at night we're also putting in 40 hours apiece, 30 to 40 hours just with our various different ministries, whether or events, whether that's one-on-one teaching with discipling one person or like a smaller group, or with me with Celebrate Recovery on Tuesdays, and at that point it was Thursdays and Mondays, and now it's Thursdays and Sundays, as well as time that I work on CR, as well as the many other different groups and church groups, and, you know, I do AV at the church, and so I'm there from 8 to noon. So... yeah, that's just had to put it all on the clock. That's more than just your normal.
And then you're involved in, like, you're a guy, like, you have something. I mean, you're single.
I am.
So this helps.
29,
for
single.
Sure.
Anyone looking out there?
Ladies,
ready to mingle.
Ready to mingle, but not really, because he is so freaking busy. You got something every night of the week. You got ministry stuff all the time.
I can make it work.
But so, do you go on mission trips as well, or are you more the home base guy?
So I'm more the home base guy for two reasons. One, because there's so much for me to do here that the Lord really isn't calling me to another country or out of state right now. I mean, with all the various stuff going on. The second reason is legally I still can't leave the country.
Oh, yeah. There's that minor detail.
Yeah, because I am a convicted felon. From my 3 DUIs in my past, that I still can't leave the country till 2020. But I don't need to. People ask me, like, do you feel bad you can't go down to Colombia on the trips? And I say, I would love to, but I don't need, the Lord does not need me right there. The Lord needs me in Tulsa.
Well, if you go to Colombia, you know how much more work you're going to have to do to catch up on what needs to be done here?
Exactly. And that's what the position that I'm in is. And I have many titles is because I fill in the gaps when they're gone, when they're in Colombia for a month and a half, 2 months, you know.
So you do a lot of fundraising. So
Yes.
What are some of the things that you do for fundraising?
A lot of one-on-one meetings, and that is what I do for fundraising.
So nothing on, no Facebook, no video.
Oh,
Ads.
okay. I did not understand the question. Then I was like, what?
I talk to people, and they
Right.
give me money.
Well, so we do fundraise through Facebook as well as our website lifesteps.tv/give, and we have different ways that you can give through there. But a lot of it, just in my own raising support, is one-on-one with different people that I know or that people introduce me to.
Gotcha.
That are interested in what I'm doing with Celebrate Recovery as well as our efforts in Colombia.
Sweet. I had to do no fundraising when I was in ministry. Well, besides like car washes, but you make the kids go wash cars.
Right.
So that was my fundraising.
Yeah, we do occasional different fundraising for like specific events. Like if someone needs a wheelchair for some reason, there was a kid with a community that we're a part of, and that there's a special needs kid who needed a specialized wheelchair. And so we help to fundraise that, or we'll have different tamale sales around Christmas time, you know, selling delicious, homemade, authentic tamales that are just so good. But that's about it.
So you do fundraising. You mainly talk to people. So I get that. That's how you close a sale right there. And who's going to refuse lunch?
Right.
I mean,
Not very many people. Lunch or coffee. Or smoothies, you know. I do love a good smoothie. Who doesn't?
Whatever you're into, ladies and gentlemen, he will take you there and talk about fundraising.
Support raising.
And ladies, he'll take you anywhere. Just give him a call, 918-955. No, I don't have your number memorized like that.
Yeah.
It's actually on my phone. It says Ben Glebe. You know who that is?
No.
He's like this guy on Idiot Test. You ever heard that show?
I've never heard of
It's
that.
a game show called Idiot Test. It's like a puzzle solving game. Anyways,
Was it on Lingo?
On True TV, I think. Anyways, so I just called you Ben Glebe. Like,
And that's what it still says?
this is what it still
Because
says.
you never changed
It
it.
actually says Ben Glebe JK, just in case I began to think that your name was Glebe.
In case that Alzheimer's starts setting in and you start forgetting.
Yeah, because I get just dealing with business stuff. I get people calling me all the time, and I'm like, I don't do a good job saving customers' phone numbers in my
And
phone.
see, that's my department is data hoarding.
Earlier, you're talking about your storybook thing, that project that you were asked me to work on.
Yeah, the storybooks.
Yeah, tell us a little more about that so people realize why I was like, you're crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, why you think that I was crazy to ask you is because it is a massive undertaking, especially for a printer to print these books. And so what it is we call them the storybooks, and there's it's a wordless picture storybook of Jesus's life chronologically, and for all those who are going to argue with the chronology, to the best of our understanding. But there are 5 by 5. Each scene is like 5 by 5, 5 inches by 5 inches, and it's an accordion book with collage cutouts that we make a master copy, and then we've scanned and then recreated on a larger scale. And so we've printed maybe 600 of the first book, and so we have different stages.
Right.
John 1 through John 4, and then Mark 1 through Mark 3, and then Mark 3 through Mark 16, and then continuing into Acts.
And you're screen printing these?
No, that was an idea
that
we were going to do.
And I said, Ben, I like you and stuff, but
don't do this.
Don't ask me ever again.
Yeah, no, we are not doing that. We are digital printing them.
Okay.
On a digital press.
Way better.
But there's still, there's 7 scenes on each side, so it's
still a massive project, for sure.
Still a massive project. It's like 40 inches. So on a digital press, like, we are maxed out at the biggest digital presses that we can find. Like, Tulsa can't print them for us. Gosh. We have to print little Columbia. It's actually easier to get them printed in Columbia, which, if you don't know this from the printing world, Columbia is like the mega. It's the mecca of printing.
Okay.
Press printing.
Huh.
Like, that is where all the presses have gone, is Columbia. There's streets of just printers, and you see people. My mom's a printer. She's been in that world her whole life, and she's just fascinated by people wheeling in carts from one place across the street, going and getting them cut or scored over here, and then going and getting them printed here, and different cards, and it's just a hub for printing. But it's actually easier for us to sometimes get them printed there.
Right. That's cool.
But
well, especially because you're on the ground there anyway. So,
right.
So it's one thing to try to communicate with somebody through email and stuff, trying to get your vision across, but you can actually, in Columbia, even be with somebody and be like, this is what I want.
Right.
Don't mess it up.
Right.
And then at that time, you're sharing the gospel with them, because they'll be like,
Absolutely.
What am I printing?
What am I printing this storybook? Well, this is the story of Jesus' life.
Oh.
And what it means to be a disciple, and how Jesus lived his life.
What must I do to be saved? That's how the conversation must
That's how it gets started. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those are the storybooks, and so far we've created 2 of them, so John 1 through John 4. And then we've created the next stage, the Follow Me stage, which is where we see in Mark 1 through Mark 3, follow me and I will make you to become fishers of men, the great catch of fish, that whole scene. And then the third book, or books, because it's going to have 3 volumes, leading up to Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, that's it's in the works, but it's a massive project.
And what are you going to use those for? Once those are done.
How they came about is we work with a tribal group in Colombia called the Wayuu, and they're in the northern peninsula, spread across Colombia and Venezuela. And they don't speak Spanish like the majority of Colombia. They actually speak Wayuu-Nike, which Wayuu-Nike...
I'm fluent.
You're fluent?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's similar. To me, being being on the outside and being Americanized, when I hear it, it kind of sounds Hawaiian, because it's like Hawaiian. You have humu humu nuku nuku up whatever. It's super long. A word that would be 3 syllables in English or Spanish is like 6 or 7. And Wayuu-Nike. So to read even a verse, even to read John 3:16, takes minutes.
Right. That's crazy.
So when we're teaching, and we're working with we have a small group that we're working with their pastors and leaders. We go from English to Spanish, Spanish to Wayuu-Nike, Wayuu-Nike to Spanish, Spanish to back into English. So it takes a while. And they don't even they have the Old Testament as far as like Genesis and some Psalms, but the New Testament, they're lacking a lot of the New Testament in their own language. So to try to communicate Jesus' life and pour into the scriptures, it's hard to do that when they don't even have it in their language. So we have really found a benefit to using this wordless picture book of Jesus' life based on the scriptures, and it's really been opening a lot of doors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you're kind of using it for advancing the gospel there.
Right. It started with this tribal group, but it's gone so much more than that. I mean, even some people have said, oh, I can see this exploding in children's ministry. And you're right. It has had some big impact with children and their ministries, and just with family and friends, but also like adults. Like I know a guy who was sharing it, and he had a larger one, and he was sharing it with a guy coming out of a bar. And the guy was laughing at him, saying, well, what do you have, like a coloring book or a comic book or something? And he was like, he walked him through the story of Jesus. And he said by the end, the guy was on his knees confessing and asking for forgiveness. And I mean, we're talking about grown adults,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm still glad I didn't do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'd still be doing it.
Yeah. I wonder, just thinking, direct-to-garment printers.
Yeah.
That the print area is still like 14 by 20. I don't know what size is your.
Ours is 5.5 inches by 40 inches. That's a sheet.
40?
Printed both sides.
Yeah.
And then cut and scored.
Yeah,
every 5.5.
I couldn't even screen printed those.
Right. Yeah.
So Ben, I would have done it for you, man. But
yeah, I
couldn't.
Wasn't capable of it.
Don't have the equipment to screen print.
Yeah.
Like that's an oversized screen.
So what we've been doing is we're actually printing on a material that's a little more. We're making stickers.
Uh-huh.
We have found that seems to be the best for the different environments we need to be in.
Vinyl wraps.
That's exactly. Yeah, we're making vinyl wraps 5x5 now.
Sweet, it's easy.
Printing them on cut and scored paper, and so we're printing all of the different scenes, which there's either 7 to 14 scenes, and then you add a map, and we're putting them on there, and so they can stand outside in the elements, and it's super easy to do. We're not having tape guns with stuff printed, which is how we were doing them ourselves.
Right.
So,
well, that's interesting. So you could maybe use yard signs. They're 18 by 24 sheets. You get them blank. Your company needs to just buy
the pressed plastic. Or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they're corrugated plastic.
Like political signs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that too thick?
It's too thick.
Okay.
Even I think if it wasn't corrugated or whatever. Corrugated. There we go. Yeah. I think it would still be too thick.
Well, fine. That was my one idea. Because that's what we do that all the time. We print yard signs. We have a banner machine that prints sticker material, and we put the sticker material on the yard sign. If
it could be one-sided without the corrugation in the middle?
I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know. I don't make the things.
Because that would be cool, and that could work. I still think it would be too thick, but it's worth seeing.
Yeah.
We've gone down many roads trying to figure out how to...
And that's the thing with printing, is there's so many... in today's day and age, there's so many different ways. There's wax printing, there's screen printing, there's direct-to-garment printing, there's vinyl cutouts, there's banner, sticker, print-on vinyl is what they call it. But whew, there's so much.
Yeah, there was one that's a type of plastic material that we were looking at that's super weatherable and durable, but we couldn't score it. Every time we scored it and tried to make a fold, it would just undo itself, and you couldn't even tell. Same thing as printing something, then getting it laminated.
Yeah.
The printing and the scoring.
Yeah. Dang.
Because we're accordion folding in them. Yeah.
Well, Life Steps Ministries, Step Worldwide. Is that right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Close.
You looked at me like I did it, and I was like, sweet. Got it.
Life Steps World Ministries.
World Ministries. Check them out. Check their website out, lifesteps.tv. And then just hit /give and go ahead and give.
Absolutely.
Boom. Support Ben in his future endeavors for sure.
Yeah.
It's cool what you're doing on the front lines. You guys got Facebook too, right?
We do. We're on Facebook
and so
and
people
YouTube.
want to follow what you're doing in Colombia and stuff.
Or Instagram. You know, when we're out on the field, we definitely have Instagram stories.
Ooh,
getting
Life
all
Steps
technical.
Worldwide Instagram stories. But find them. You'll find them somewhere.
Yeah. Life Steps.
It's really
World
easy to
Ministries.
say.
Yeah.
Life Step World Ministries.
Every media account is at Life Steps World, which is easy. Right.
Life Steps World. Got it. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Bible Belt Bros podcast.